hi everyone. We just took this exercise and really kind of excitingly have used the standard Zoom platform. I pay the $15 a month for the pro version on Zoom. And sometimes when you stay up until 3 in the morning, you end up down a rabbit hole and you learn all kinds of new interesting things. And what I learned is using your standard Zoom platform that you know, like I said, I'm paying $15 a month for, you're able to go live, invite someone in, and share your screen all at the same time. And it's very easy to do. I will be doing a training on that, but right now what's most important is really sharing with you some of the updates that Jenn has. So Jenn Viridis with Prax Accounting is going to help us some really interesting information on what financial support is out there for us as small business owners and what's happening with it. I mean, since its inception, it was born just what, a week ago, roughly?
Yeah,
and
it has not been very long at all.
And it has evolved and changes have been regularly occurring. And since Jenn is doing her very best to stay up to date on this, we thought we would share with you what's happening as of now, to the best of our knowledge. So Jenn, thank you for taking the time to share this with us. She's going to go through her presentation, which was just made days ago, which will still include some additional changes and updates that have occurred since the creation of this slide. So she's going to talk us through that. And Jenn, from here, I'm going to let you take over.
All right, sounds great. Thank you very much. Hi, everyone. So yeah, the caveat to this is that this is ongoing changes. So this is the best of up-to-date, or this is the best up-to-date information I can provide, but it is challenging to keep up with this all because it just is day-to-day almost. So this is a presentation I created a few days ago. A couple of pieces in this are going to be a little outdated, but I'm going to walk you through it. So we're talking about COVID-19 funding options and what you can do for your business. I do want to start out with a pretty basic essential, which is, get that going, here we go. Losing your head is a really good way to become the crisis. Please, let's keep our heads on. We've all got a brain, let's use it. All right, let's see here. Okay, so we're gonna unzip some of the options. A few caveats to this. This is information that is accurate as of 3/31. So like I said, I'm gonna give you a couple of verbal updates about this, but I just haven't had a chance to redo this because it's been so incredibly chaotic.
Right, and we're going to run through this really fast. And so if you have more questions, please reach out to Jenn. She's going to kind of slam right through this. We know this is live. And also be sure to understand that this is not financial advice, legal advice, medical advice.
I've got all that in here.
Sharing with you what we know based on what's going on, and things can be changing at this very moment that we're not aware of, but we're doing our best to keep you on.
It's the weekend, so it probably won't change until tomorrow, but you know, just
there's no promises in this environment. No promises. Exactly.
So yeah, like Jessica said, your specific circumstances are going to determine your eligibility. Please reach out to me. I'm happy to help anyone. The content is designed as an educational overview. This is not specific professional advice. So those are my caveats. All right. Today we're going to be talking about how do you qualify, what records you're going to need to obtain, how much money might be on the table for you. Do you want to look at loans or grants, and then what you can use the funds for. This is kind of the outline that we're going through here. First thing that I want you to remember, and this is still fundamentally true, this has not changed. The most important thing you can do for yourself right now is act.
Yes.
Do not sit and wait. Do not play the sit and wait game. That is not going to help you right now.
Well, my husband and I acted right away. We've already submitted
the section
that came out. And here's what we think, that if they do need additional information or we did something in error, they'll come back to us and ask us for more information and have us.
They should.
Something new. So
they should. We don't know yet how the banks are going to handle all of this or how the SBA is going to handle all of it. In a lot of cases, they don't know either. But that is exactly the reason why you want to act immediately, not wait until they figure it out, because by the time they figure it out, they're going to run out of money. And then they're going to have to go back to the government and try to find more funds. And as much as this money is great, we're still going to end up paying for it in our taxes.
Kids and our grandchildren.
So our kids, yeah, exactly. This is not, it's not like we're just coming up with money out of thin air.
We kind of are.
Money that's going to cost us. So if you want to be a part of that, you need to act now or you'll miss out, but you'll still have to pay for it later. So keep that in mind.
Yes.
All right. So do you qualify for relief? First of all, the funding options are unprecedented. for the most part, more businesses are going to be eligible than we've ever seen before. Again, now we've got a little bit of an extra caveat because the banks have pushed back on some of the rules that were first pushed out. And I'll talk about that in a minute. Most small businesses, however, with less than 500 employees, if you have employees less than 500, you'll probably be eligible for more than one. In some cases, I mean, I've got clients that are eligible for 4 or 5 different options. So definitely talk to your accountant. Some of these options include sole proprietors, independent contractors, self-employed. These are segments that have traditionally been excluded. So, you know, my caveat here is the initial outlay of rules showed that they were definitely going to be included. Now they've pulled back a little bit on that because they realized the math didn't always work. So
and you're talking about my husband and me, and we found
yes,
there was only one thing that we could find because we own our own companies and we're the only employee, both of us,
right.
for our own company. So that we had to really dig, but we did find.
And this,
something.
unfortunately, is a product of if you've been running your business lean and you decided not to opt for payroll because of the additional expense, and you instead opted for subcontractors, this is where you're going to pay that price, unfortunately. The government is doing everything they can to support companies that have used the payroll system. And if you haven't used the payroll system, your options are now going to be much more limited. They weren't a week ago, but now that the banks have pushed back and the math has come out, they've realized that it's just not feasible for them to include companies like yours and companies like mine. I have a team of 5, but only 3 are on payroll. The other 2 are subcontractors, and that's devastating for us. We want to support our entire team, regardless of the format by which we brought them into the company. And this means that we now have to make tough decisions, and that hasn't changed. But
you just have to look harder, though. There isn't nothing. There is something.
That's true. There is something. Yeah. And it is nice to see that because traditionally there has not been anything. So my little graphic image here, breaking the chains on that, still somewhat holds true. So let me run into the next one. All right. So as a reminder, this does not mean there's no hope. This is very much a product of we have an opportunity in front of us, just like we had a decade ago with housing bubble burst. These 8 companies, and I'll give you a nickel if you can guess who they are just based on the logos. I thought it'd be a little fun to test that. But let's go through these. We've got Groupon, we've got Instagram, we've got Square, Pinterest, Uber. See if I can remember all of these. Slack, WhatsApp, and Venmo. All of those started during the housing bubble burst. And housing bubble burst, and look how well they're doing. The reason they did well is because they recognized a specific need in the market, they responded to it, and they innovated in their response. Those are really important things to remember. The fundamental concept here is they did not continue business as usual. If you have a business that is currently in a hard spot, this is what I want you to take away from this. Act now. And recognize that you cannot continue business as usual. You have to figure out ways to innovate, such as using Zoom meetings to do your work.
And lives. See a need, fill a need. That's my other favorite thing from that robots movie. See a need, fill a need. So that's what you have to start thinking about. And I've been making jokes on Facebook, but this is going to be a real thing. If your business
is a very real thing. And this is an incredible opportunity for entrepreneurs. Young innovators who are all excited about coming up with new ideas and new solutions. This is going to be where they shine.
Well, my joke is 9 months
Hold on one second. David, I'm on an interview.
My joke, live, by the way.
Live.
So, my joke is in 9 months, we'll have a huge baby boom because of all this quarantine and TV gets pretty quickly. So
and let's just hope that that's
baby products.
My fear with that though is, if we have multiple peaks, that'll be like what, the 3rd or 4th peak at that point. So that may not be a good thing, but I get what you're saying.
Well, let's hope for the positive.
Let's hope for the positive.
New life out of the winter is what we're hoping, right?
Yep, very true. Good Lord, I hope. All right, so records that you're going to need. Now, every option is going to be a little bit different, but here's kind of a guide and overview of what you're going to need pulled together. You're going to need accurate financial statements for up to 24 months. So if you have been putting off your accounting, this unfortunately is not good news for you. You need to go find an accountant right this second. Tell them I need clean financials so that I can apply for these loans. We are out there. We will do it. We will turn it around as quickly as possible. But you need to have this. You cannot rely on either unreconciled or unclosed financials. Those are important terms that accountants use to make sure that your financial statements are accurate. If you are not using those and you don't have an accountant that uses those terms, I would be very, very nervous for you right now. Payroll records such as 941s, 940s, 1099s, in some cases you're going to need to provide. Certainly W-2s, they'll ask for things related to your payroll records. They may want your mortgage, rent, and utility bills. They may want, a lot of them are asking for specific examples of how COVID-19 impacted you. This could be anything from, emails from customers that canceled orders. It could be having to let somebody go in the email that you sent to your employees saying, I'm so sorry, I can't financially afford to keep you on. Pull that data together because you'll probably be asked for it. However, the benefit of this is that most of these options are not asking for a personal guarantee or collateral. Your credit score will likely be evaluated, so that may not be good news for everyone, but they're going to be a little more forgiving than they probably would have before this. So it's still worth trying, even if you have bad credit. Mm-hmm. They're also going to want company information, such as your articles of incorporation or your articles of organization, the date you were formed. Those are all on your formation documents. So just make sure that you collect those before you reach out to the banks, or you have them ready because they're going to ask for them at some point.
Sure.
And then, of course, knowledge. If you're using an accountant, for instance, to fill this information out for you and to complete the loans, which we've been doing a ton of, we're going to need to ask you very personal questions, such as, have you ever been in bankruptcy? Do you owe any back child support? There's going to be some questions about that just be prepared to answer them. It's not unusual. It's a completely natural part of this process. And in fact, most accountants already know this stuff about you anyway. So if you're using one, they probably already know this, or they should, but don't be surprised if you get those questions. I had to ask a client in the very beginning when we first started this for his place of birth. He was like, man, it's like I'm filling out a passport application. That's kind of true. So just be aware that there's going to be a lot of personal data you have to reveal here. All right. However, there is an opportunity here. One of my favorite quotes is, money often costs too much. This is less true here. It's an unusual scenario where they are making it easier to get money. So take advantage of that. Again, don't wait. Look at your options, push out there. Even if you think you may not qualify, there's no harm in trying. It's not like you're going to penalize for trying. They're just going to come back and say no. But that's the worst that's going to happen for a little bit of effort that may turn into something that is truly beneficial. All right, so how much money are we talking? The short answer is a lot.
That's right. Show me the money, Jen.
You've all seen the big billions. Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to give you all those numbers because nobody wants to choke on those numbers. But I'm going to give you one example of kind of what this means. The Payroll Protection Program, which is one of the ones that's getting the most attention right now, they offer 2.5 times your monthly payroll costs. And this is where some of those rules have changed since I made this slide. That traditionally included, or in the beginning, sorry, not traditionally, in the beginning, the initial bill that was released included these 4 elements: wages, anything basically compensation for services, employee benefits, state payroll taxes. However, payments to subcontractors have been removed. So that is no longer an option, which is very devastating to a lot of companies. It does not include wages over 100,000 per year. For your employees. It doesn't include non-US employees. It doesn't include federal payroll or sick leave, which is covered under the Family First Act. So they also have efforts in place to avoid duplication. So you can't get one funding option provided to you to pay your payroll taxes and then also apply for the same payroll taxes to be covered with another fund. They will not allow that. You can only get one batch of money for one specific expense, and that's it. Just be aware of that because they will be looking at this because they know this is going to get abused. All right, in this time, every little thing counts. I really want you guys to keep that in mind. There's no such thing as a stone that you don't want to unturn. You really want to be looking under every possible stone you can, looking for options here. And this is where it's going to come down to, are you being as innovative as you really could? Talk to an accountant. They know the options that are out there. So if you haven't talked to an accountant yet, you're probably doing yourself a disservice. All right, there are tons of options. Like I said, we're going to go through a few of those right now. The Small Business Administration was the first one to come out with all of them, and those have been available they were pretty much available almost immediately. The EIDL loans, that's what most people are going to apply for, and most people will be approved for, theoretically, based on the requirements that they're asking for. So that's probably the first one I would recommend everybody apply for, is the SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan. Then they have disaster loan advances up to $10,000. If you're in a really hard spot, you can ask them for an advance on that loan. And the assumption is that if they don't approve your loan, then that advance will be a loan, and they're just pre-approving it regardless of looking over your situation. We don't know a whole lot about this one yet because we just haven't seen it play out, but that's the assumption right now.
Do you have any idea for this one that we're talking about when they might actually make a decision and release the funds for people who submitted right away?
I mean, I've heard very different responses to that question. I've heard within 24 hours. I've heard within 3 weeks. So I'd say somewhere in that window. Those are the two broad
between
windows.
24 hours and 3 weeks. It's like when the cable guy shows up.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty much like you called Comcast and said, hey, when can you come fix this? So just, I don't know. That's the short answer.
Sometime between 9 a.m. and next month. Sometimes between 9 a.m. and next month we'll show
pretty much,
up.
Yes. Express bridge loans, which are certainly an option. Look into those. Roughly a dozen or so.
Who qualifies for those kinds of loans? You need payroll again, right?
Actually, I don't think that the bridge loan requires payroll. That one it has its own set of requirements. So definitely Google it because you may very well apply. You may qualify for it. But that one, I don't remember the specific rules. There's like, I don't know, there's like 15 options. I can't remember them all.
I know we're live. This is all about me, people. We're doing this live. I'm trying to get you some information. In the meantime, I'm getting a one-on-one with the accountant. So just go with it.
So, all right. However, there is another option that I want you guys to look at, and that is that the SBA has always had some kind of grant out there for specialized businesses that you may qualify for and just have never realized it before. Look at the SBA's site. There may very well be options on there that have nothing to do with COVID-19 that have been around for a while and that you just weren't aware of.
You're going to have to do a presentation just on those, you know.
Exactly. That absolutely is worth looking at. And there also are a lot of specialty ones from other organizations. We're going to talk about that in a second here. All right. So the CARES Act, that's the big one that came out with the PPP, Payroll Protection Program. That is the one. Unfortunately, the CARES Act, let me give you just the nutshell perspective of what happened. The CARES Act was pushed through Congress as quickly as possible because they were getting so much public pressure. The president signed it in, and then they started unraveling the math and realized it doesn't work. So they've had to kind of backpedal on some of this stuff. Part of it was prompted by the banks, because the banks, when they started realizing what the interest rates were that were being offered and the lack of benefits to the banks were like, we're not getting involved with this. We're going to lose money. What's the point? We don't want anything to do with this, because the point of the CARES Act was it wasn't administered by the government the way the previous options were. They wanted the banks to do the loan applications and the processes and looking at all the documentation. So they're asking the banks to do the hard work for them, and they're just backing those funds with the SBA funds. But the problem is the banks don't want to do that because they're losing money if they do it based on the terms that were released in the CARES Act. So they've pushed back and they've had to change that because otherwise the banks weren't going to do it. They can't force banks to do it. Or I guess if they could, they haven't done that. There are, of course, the EIDL loans, which are continuing. There's ongoing opportunities available there. They expanded it with the CARES Act. They added a few more benefits to it. Same thing with the Family First Coronavirus Response Act, which is a mouthful. They did expand some of the options. So if you've already considered doing those and you applied before the CARES Act was published, you may want to follow up with that application, reach out to the SBA and ask them, should I resubmit based on the new rules? More than likely, when they get back in touch with you, if they haven't already, they're going to ask you for some additional information, and it will include things that were now approved through the CARES Act. The CARES Act does offer tax changes like credits, delaying your tax payments, things like that. Those are going to help you somewhat right now, but really they're thinking more of benefits like in the next 6 to 12 months, which don't ignore those. Those are certainly beneficial, but they're not going to get you through payroll tomorrow.
Right. And so that's interesting, because I was thinking about what you were saying, and the SBA stuff, they never asked us how we were personally affected by the coronavirus, even though I had some contracts go on hold and some things occur with my clients that I have specific examples, and so does my husband, but we didn't.
They probably will when they follow up with you and ask you for more details. They'll probably want that at that point.
So
I know the Maryland one does in fact ask for a statement as part of the application process, or it did in the first, let me see if I get this right. They asked for it in the first online application, but it broke within 48 hours because
Yeah, we
when
didn't
they
do that
opened it,
one.
8,000 applications came swarming through the door. Broke the system. They had to move to, here's our form, you can download it, fill it out, upload it. And
Yeah.
then a few days later, they had another online portal. And that new online portal, I'm not sure if they asked you for that statement.
We didn't do
But
the
they will be
online
asking.
portal. We were doing the paper one in between. We were
Okay,
that in between stage. Yeah.
got it. Yeah, no, they're going to ask for it at some point. So be prepared with that. Be prepared with evidence. And I don't know how much evidence they're going to ask for, but probably not going to be horrific, because the whole point of this is to help people that were impacted. If you can provide just a little bit of proof of it,
Yeah, we do
they're
have.
probably not going to beat that horse. Also, do not ignore the potential of local or private funding. So there are state opportunities, there are county opportunities, there are city opportunities. I want you Googling that, because everybody's district is going to be different. I want, if you're in Howard County, Maryland, I want you saying Howard County coronavirus relief. See if there's anything out there. There may be, and you know what? They could release something next week that isn't available now. So keep an eye on that. You may be surprised what comes out. And I listed just a couple of examples that I just found while I was wandering through the rabbit hole that is Google.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then, of course, private companies, there are significant funds being put on the table by private companies, the big ones. Well, I mean, they're publicly traded, but still, they're not government companies. Amazon is offering $5 million in grants to their neighborhood businesses near their headquarters in Washington. So if you happen to live there, and one of the best parts is they're not really asking for any proof of that, proof of how you're spending it. We're going to talk about that in a second. But look at your local.
You have to be in Seattle for that. So
you do, but there may be other things local to you. Like, for instance, the casinos in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
They could opt to release some fund for local businesses that are in Maryland to support them. Who knows? So keep an eye out. I would recommend, I mean, this is what I'm doing. I would recommend setting up alerts and just, yes, you'll get inundated, but Google alerts are incredibly beneficial. Mm-hmm. And anytime a new publication or a new article is published that references those specific terms, you'll get a notice. You'll get a notice, and you can take a look at it and see if it's something
what terms are you including
that applies to you.
What terms are you including in your alert?
So I include things like, for me, going to the casinos, for instance, I will do casino relief funds, mm-hmm. something like that. Yes, it's very specific, and it's possible I'll never get anything out of it, but they're one of the biggest entities in our area. Mm-hmm. They are recent. There was a lot of political debate getting them approved. Mm-hmm. So they had to really fight for their presence in the community. So this is a good time for them to prove to the community that that decision was good. So they have incentive to come up with some kind of funding options for their local community. Now, whether they do it or not, I don't know, but I know that in the back of their minds, they're thinking, maybe if we have a little bit of extra money, we can share this with the community and just give them that extra little pat on the back for bringing us into Maryland. What about the Facebook grant? Do you know anything about that program? Is it gone? The Facebook grant, yes, and that's definitely something you want to look into, especially if you utilize Facebook for ad campaigns. Mm-hmm. Absolutely worth looking at. I haven't looked at the specifics of their application process, but that's another perfect example. That's a private company that they've just decided to do something that's not geographically based. Mm-hmm. Anyone in the U.S., I believe, can apply for it.
But you have to have been buying ads probably before now to.
I don't know. I haven't looked at the specifics, so it's possible that isn't a requirement. But it's certainly worth looking at. This is not the time to assume that you don't qualify. This is the time to do research. This is the time to sit on your computer at least once or twice a week and wander around, Google, look through the new publications and the new offerings, because again, these are opportunities that are coming out daily. We don't know what's coming down the pipeline because we don't have any insight into the future. So the only option you have is either rely on somebody else to do the research for you. You can hire an accountant to do it, but that takes a lot of money to do, because it means somebody has to be doing what I'm doing, which is constantly researching. Mm-hmm. We're happy to do it. It's what we do for a living, but if you don't want to spend that money right now, you can help yourself. There's no reason why you have to pay somebody else to do something like a Google search. Now, once you find something that you're not sure you qualify for, that's the moment where maybe you reach out to your accountant and you say, can you look at the terms? Should I pursue this? Because that's a much shorter conversation, and that's a much shorter allocation of their time. And it's going to cost you a lot less for them to just do a quick analysis of whether or not it's worth applying for. But even then, an accountant can't guarantee you that you're going to get approved.
Sure.
This is all based on the funding option, or the funding and the lenders deciding what is going to qualify and what isn't. And we don't have very good insight into that yet, because we haven't seen enough money actually being distributed to understand what the likelihood is of someone's application being approved. So that's an ongoing conversation.
Okay.
Let me jump into the next one. Okay, so again, going back to, this is not the time to sit and wait and watch. Do not sit and watch what's happening. You need to go out there and actively, proactively look for benefits for your company. Look for things to get you through this, because nobody cares about your money as much as you do. Right. Nobody cares about your company as much as you do. This is the time to prove that to yourself. Don't sit back. Don't sit on your couch waiting for this all to blow over. If you do that, your company probably won't survive, and your competitors will be left to pick up the pieces.
Right.
So this is one of my strongest frustrations with all of this, is how many small businesses are going to fail because they were too scared to make a move. Yeah. They weren't sure what the best move was. They were afraid to pull a trigger, and as a result, they missed out. That's my biggest fear here. Is there's so many companies that were built, blood, sweat, and tears went into these companies. They have heart in them, they have soul in them. Those are the people I love to work with, and they're scared now. And a lot of people's response to fear is wait and see.
Well, and no perfection. Happens. Some of those perfectionists, no perfection paralysis. Yep. You want to make
perfection
sure
paralysis
perfect and everything's in line. Just do your very best. And then the other one is paralysis by analysis, right? Don't overanalyze it. Don't overthink it. Just do it. Jump in. Give it a shot. We are live here and we are interfacing with Zoom. I mentioned that. And so if you are watching us and commenting and liking, we are loving you. I just don't see it on this end yet. So when I close us all out, I will go back, answer all the comments. Jen will look through the comments.
Absolutely. I'm happy to answer any questions. And listen, I'm happy to give people my time for free. Even if I'm happy to give anyone 15 minutes to just talk about their situation and say, here's what I think. I can't do more than 15 minutes because my schedule is jammed.
She just said this live to billions of people, so she still only has so many 15 minutes.
I know, and that's why I say 15 minutes, because I'm already slammed. So I'm happy to give that to you, but just, shoot me a message either on Facebook or on LinkedIn.
Get it scheduled before it's gone, just like all this other stuff.
Seriously, because by the end of the day, my brain's so fried. I'm I just can't think anymore. So I don't want to get in that situation, but I'm happy to offer somebody 15 minutes as long as I have 15 minutes available. Okay, so yeah, hope is not a strategy. Don't sit there with that. So this is the last thing I want to talk about, is what you cover with the funds that are out there. Like I said before, there are rules in place to avoid duplicative loans. And that's important to remember, because if you're applying for multiple funds and you don't know what you're going to get approved for, and you get multiple funds, then you need a system in place to track how you're using it. And that's really fundamentally important. This is where an accountant is going to be your biggest asset. An accountant is going to be able to track, where did this fund get used? And that's important, because each one of them has their own kind of cute little rules, and you have to follow them if you want the benefits of these. So we're going to talk about a couple here. The idle can be used for most normal operating expenses. So there's less restrictions in place, which is great. But the PPP, for instance, is only for payroll costs. You can only use that to pay your payroll, your mortgage or your rent, and your utilities. So if you get both the PPP and the idle, and you're not watching how you're spending those funds, and by the way, the PPP has to be spent within 8 weeks. If you have 8 weeks of expenses and you happen to pay something that is not a payroll cost or a mortgage or utility, then that doesn't get forgiven. So the benefit of the PPP is if you spend it on these things, they'll forgive that portion. They also recently decided that of the PPP funds that you get, that you can spend within 8 weeks and have it forgiven, 75% of that has to be on payroll costs. Their whole point of this PPP program is they want people to hire their employees back if they fired them, or keep their employees on if they're considering firing them. That's the point. That's the only object.
That makes sense, and I'm glad that that's happening. So
it is. It's really beneficial to those companies that have payroll. It's not beneficial to the companies that didn't do payroll before, but for those that did payroll, it can absolutely buy them 2 months of runway, and that's worth every penny, especially because it's getting forgiven if you use it in the right way. So this is the moment when you get those funds in. Here's what I would recommend for people. If you are approved for funds and they come in the door, the first person you need to call is your accountant and say, how do I set up a tracking mechanism so that at the end of this, if it's eligible to be forgiven, I'm not caught with my pants down, because that's going to happen to people.
It's just not good. It can just, in some
No.
cases, it's just not pretty.
Because then it gets converted to, if you don't use it correctly, it gets converted to a loan.
Right.
And so you're then left with a situation where you have a loan that you were not anticipating, and you have to make repayment on that at some point. Now, they're being very forgiving with the terms, but it's still a loan that you have to pay back. It's still a liability on your company's books that puts you in a different financial position than you may have wanted to be in.
Yeah.
So take advantage of it. If it has the option to be forgiven, there is no reason for you not to have an accountant watching that for you. There is no excuse for that.
Yeah.
The Amazon, another example, the Amazon's program expects businesses to cover it for operating costs, but they've specifically said, we're not your babysitters. We're not going to ask you for proof. Use it however you need to keep your business alive. So there's going to be differing levels of oversight and of regulations in place that you need to adhere to use these funds.
But ultimately, you have to track it anyway for the next year's taxes, right? I mean, so you have to track things. We have to track.
You do have to track things, but it's more than that. It's more than the traditional tracking that accounting does. This is tracking specifically how those funds are being used, and you have to be able to prove that. You're going to have to show things like your bank statements that show that it was a payroll deduction, and that you didn't have more money coming in that you also used for the same things, or that you just took it out for yourself. Mm-hmm. They're going to want to see the ins and outs of that cash. They're going to want to see proof that you didn't just take it to go buy a yacht. So even though, yes, it is traditional accounting done right anyway, this is traditional accounting plus. We want even more oversight and even more care with how those monies are being spent, even more careful not doing personal spending from a business account, which everybody struggles with. If you've got a card in your wallet and you're used to using it for something that is a personal expense and it's a business account, this is the time you don't want to do that. Normally you can get away with that a little bit, not now. Not now. If you get money in, you've got to be very careful how that money goes out. And this is where an accountant can help you a lot.
Sure.
All right. So like I said before, if you need help navigating this, reach out. This is what we love to do. I absolutely want to help as many people as I possibly can with the time I have available. Mm-hmm. And if you guys need it, I'm here. I don't want people not reaching out just because they're worried about the cost of it. And the last thing I'll leave, and I believe I shared this last time as well, but it still holds true and I still find it to be funny. By the way, if anybody has a funny, a more funny, because funnier is not a word, analogy for this, please let me know, because this just came out of my head late at night one night when I was bored. I'm happy to share this in the comments, and if anybody wants to ask me for it, let me know. But this actually does still pretty much hold true. I left it vague enough so that if they change the rules of this, we could still kind of go by it. And for the most part, this all holds true. But that's all I have. And that's the whole presentation. So I will stop my share and let Jessica take back over. Thank you guys for listening. I appreciate it. I realize it's not a super fun conversation or topic, but this is what I love. And I've been doing it for 20 years. And I absolutely love every minute of this. As much as it's chaotic and pain in the butt and trying to keep up with it all is driving me crazy, it's still, this is an incredibly exciting time to be an accountant, because it's fundamentally changing some of the rules. Mm-hmm. And it's actually offering opportunities for companies that otherwise would not have had opportunities. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. I think that we're going to see a lot of innovation and a lot of remarkable things come out of this.
So she gets all giddy and excited when we talk about accounting. So that's the kind of accountant I think you want.
It's fun. It's fun. I'm sorry. I know everybody doesn't think that, but it is fun. It's not math. It's just fun.
You like putting all the pieces of the puzzle together and solving the equation. So that's really good. And we need people like that. So here's the thing. If you need some navigating, if you're trying to find the funds to keep things together and keep your employees staffed, Jen, or your personal accountant, reach out to someone. That's what we're here to say. We're not trying to push you in any general direction. We just really want you to have the information. We're so grateful for Jen sharing her time and putting this together. I'm going to do a great shout out to my friend Blaney. She is always innovating and so smart, and she's always putting this kind of valuable information in front of her people, because Jen reached out to me and said, hey, I'd love to share some stuff. Can we jump on? I said, absolutely. And she was like, yeah, I just did this with Blaney's MVX group. So if you're lucky enough to be part of that, you've kind of already already gotten a lot of this great information.
Although it's changed since I did the Blaney presentation,
Exactly.
or
And
since
that's
I
why
did
we
the
all
MBX presentation with Blaney, it has changed since then. So my
pay
talk is
attention,
very
yeah.
different.
Yeah, so pay attention to what's happening. Things are going to unroll, and they'll probably continue to unroll. So there'll be something new next week and probably the week after. I mean, this is the kind of terrain that we're running in. We have to kind
And
of.
I will continue to update and create more material to try to walk people through this. I will do the absolute best I can with that. If you have specific questions, let me know, because I will work on getting you answers to those.
Yeah, and there's some other great programs out there that I am collaborating and working with Blaney on as well. So please reach out to me as far as other types of cost savings. So if there's a better way or more efficient, inexpensive way to function business successfully for you right now, that's one of my skill sets. Looking at all of the invoices you pay overall, you can actually end up with several $1,000s in refunds for billing errors. You can end up paying several $1,000s less overall for those operating expenses in general, and it not cost you anything but the split. So no result, no fee, sort of like finding money in your couch cushions. And now's the time to look. There's also some other great programs that are available in several states. I know they're actively available in Maryland, New York, and Delaware. There's a grant program for solar farms. So now, where before, if you couldn't have actual solar panels on your home, you couldn't be involved. Now you can participate and actually receive reduction on your electric bill just by participating in the farm itself. And so if you're in Maryland, Delaware, or New York, please reach out to me, because I'd love to tell you more about that and have you plug your zip code through the process to see if you qualify. Because anywhere we can find money right now, we should be looking, right? That was one of the points on Jen's slide. If we can find ways to spend less now's the time to do it. So.
Yep.
If you can cut
costs, you should have done it last week, but definitely do it now.
Don't wait anymore. Give somebody a call. Give me a call. I'm happy to work with you. I can do some one-on-one consultations with no cost, and we'll take a look at what options there are for you as well. Really, we're looking at spending as little as we possibly can. Still, here's the thing. There's still money out there. We also want to access as much resources as we can for as little cost as we can. So that's part of what these relief funds are about. They're about accessing money at a lower cost, having money cost us less to access. But there are other ways. There is still money being spent out there. So I'm a sales and marketing consultant. There are still people in the globe spending money. A matter of fact, the investing world is investing and spending more now than ever. When things like this happen globally and even nationally, when there are events, that is when it is most advantageous for people who do have a lot of resources to invest. So it's a buying frenzy for a part of our world. So there is money there. Do not have despair. Have hope. There is resources to access from all different ways. Spend less, get these funds, get your accounting straight. And also are still sales to be made. Someone's going to make them. Why not you? So reach out to Jen and I, and we'll see how we can help you. Have a fantastic Sunday, and be safe, be well, stay home, take care. Until next time. This was my first playing with the live Zoomer. Well, I played at 1:30 in the morning. I don't know if that really counts. And don't anyone judge me. And of course, we're doing a live, and in the middle of your presentation, my eyes start like burning and watering because I have allergies to the goldenrod that's outside.
And the pollen is so bad.
With my tissue, hoping no one's watching me. They're all watching Jen right now. But we are live, so there you go. This is what happens in the real world. We suck it up, buttercup, and we just do the best we can, and we make a shift so that we can all come out successful on the other side. So have a wonderful day, and I'll be in touch with you soon, Jen. And I'm sure you're going to get a lot of 15-minute phone calls from this.
Well, by all means, I'm hoping to paint today, but if it comes down to it, I will donate my paint time. But I'm going to have to do some painting. I got to get my head out of this space sometimes.
Creativity outlet is a great stress relief. I also paint, but I'm probably going to sneak off and at least get some fresh air and do a little bit of a walk, and then do a bunch more work, because I have been on learning overdrive. I was so excited to find out that Facebook now has an option where you can share your screen. Zoom has an option where you can go live and share your screen and invite people in on both Facebook and YouTube. So if you want to learn any of these tricks, watch for some of my upcoming videos. And
I'm going to be, because those are phenomenal tricks.
And I'll also be giving a LinkedIn class on the 17th of April, Friday afternoon from 4 to 6. It's only $37. So I'll be sharing a link with that as well. So everyone take care, learn some new things, make yourself a stronger, better online presence, because everybody's Googling you now more than ever. So we're all online.
That's
Take
for darn
care.
sure.
And we're going to sign off. So have a great day, everybody, and give us a call, reach out to us. All our contact information will be in the comments below as well. So thanks. Bye, Jen. Thank you.
See ya.